All right, guys. So in the past, when I've done this, we just kind of go around the room and introduce ourselves. You guys probably all know each other, but I don't know you, so we can just go around and you can just tell me like your name and your major, and then kind of some of the things that you are looking to do with your art career, and then a little bit about your current work. And I don't know if you all participated in the talk that I did before with Emily, but so I can tell you a little bit about me to get us started. I'm Ashley Belote, obviously. I am a picture book illustrator and author, and I did the Master's in Arts Administration program through UK. So that's how Emily and I met and have stayed in touch since grad school. And so since then I started my illustration career, and I'm under contract for 5 books right now. I've got 3 with Macmillan, their imprint called Fievel and Friends, and 2 under contract with Penguin Random House, which is very exciting. And those are my author illustrator books. And so I'm fairly new to this Big 5 publishing house world, but I'm very excited about it. And I've been working with Macmillan since the end of 2019. So I've been, in this world since then, and I have learned quite a bit and still have a lot to learn, but hopefully I can answer any questions that you all have about breaking into the industry, about the publishing process, about the illustration process. I did my bachelor's is in fine arts, so I have some fine art background as well. So I'm here to look at your work and to answer any and all questions that you may have. We'll try my best to answer them. So Joy, since we have talked, if you want to go first, and then we can just go from there.
All right. So I am Joy, and I'm majoring in arts administration, but I'm also minoring in art history and digital media and design. So since I'm focusing a little more on arts administration in my studies, I haven't been able to do very much art. It's been a very hot minute since I've really done anything, but I am fortunately taking a studio class this semester called Circuits and Bits, which is really focused on interactive artwork and incorporating coding and electronics into that. So that's been really cool to learn about. But yeah, was that all of your questions?
That sounds okay, good. Cool. All right. I have Kimmy next on my screen if you want to go next.
Hi, I'm Kimmy. I'm a math major, and I don't have any artwork to show today, and I don't intend to have a career in art, but I just enjoy it. And yeah, I just wanted to see everyone else's art.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that is something that I love about art, is that you don't have to make it a career. It can just be something that's very enjoyable. And even if you do make it your career, it should still be enjoyable. And I feel like a lot of people who attempt to go into the arts as a career who end up getting out of it, that happens because they just kind of lose their passion. Maybe it wasn't really there in the first place. And then other people who try to force it to be their career, that doesn't necessarily work out. So that is very awesome, Kimmy, that you have made the distinction that you just love this and you want to make art because it brings you joy. I think that is fantastic. So good call on that. And it's interesting too that you have the math brain and the art brain. That is a very rare combination. And that could, discount the fact that you don't want art to be your career right now. Down the road, you could sit on the board of a gallery or, get into picture books based on your career, using your math background. So who knows what could happen, but the fact that you have both abilities is phenomenal, because I know that the majority of artists, they have the artist's brain and no math or science brain. I'm in that category. So great job. I see Audrey next on mine.
Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm double majoring in digital media design and history. No art history, just art history. I haven't been able to do a lot of personal projects because I'm taking all my foundations courses this year. I'm a freshman. I am a dum-dum and didn't realize I needed work to bring. I have a project that I'm working on. I really don't like it, but it's a work in progress. So
Awesome. Yeah, we've all been there, that's for sure. We all have to hate something before we can love it. So, and I understand also, like, so I am a member of several critique groups, both for writing and illustrating. And like, I joined the critique groups with people that I didn't know because I wanted honest feedback. And of course, once you spend time with people, you're going to become their friend, whether you mean for it to happen or not. But it's easier now because I know them. It's easier for me to show them raw work than it used to be, because used to be I would like spend so much time trying to make something what I thought was perfect. And if you start getting feedback on something in the early stage when you still hate something, Audrey, then it actually makes your work process a little bit faster, because you can kind of get feedback on things that aren't working early on versus spending so much time making something that isn't going to work in the end anyway. So if you don't want to share, I'm not going to make you share, but it is a safe space. You can totally share the ugly stuff. If it makes you feel better, I'll share some of my ugly things. Because everybody has to start somewhere, and it's usually not from a pretty place. So no worries there. But that's awesome. All right, I see Kelsey last here on my screen.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm a digital media and design major. Later on in my career, I'm hoping to do illustration. I don't specifically know like what area I want to go into yet, but it's definitely an interest of mine. Like people have said, I haven't had a ton of time to do personal projects, but I'm in a graphic design course this semester, and today I've been working on an infographic that I can share and hopefully get some feedback from you guys.
Excellent. Yes. I love like the fact that a lot of you, even if you're not majoring in graphic design, you all have done some type of PowerPoint presentation, I would imagine, in your collegiate career at some point. And even if you don't mean for it to be, PowerPoints are art projects, let's be honest, because everybody has a good time picking out those stupid fonts and all that stuff, So it's like, it's a blast. And like I said, regardless of if you're doing it, it's fun too. So yeah, and graphic design is a fabulous industry to go into. Like honestly, art in general can sometimes get a bad rap. A lot of people say like, oh, there's no money in it, why do you want to be an artist, that kind of thing. Which I mean, you hear the stereotypical starving artist, and that does happen, but art is absolutely everywhere that we look, from cereal boxes to PowerPoint presentations. It's everywhere. So if you're really passionate about it, you can pretty much find a job in art in any field. So definitely don't give up on that. And like, Kimmy, like you were saying, it could be something that manifests later on after you have career A. So, the fact that you have open minds about all of this is fantastic. So, all right. So who wants to share first? I'm so excited. Somebody be brave. Do you want me to pick? Okay, well, Kelsey, you said that you had something that you said that you would share, so I feel okay choosing you.
That's fine. Let me see. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
How fun. Okay, so there is a picture book that you should look at. If you end up, taking your career there one day, that would be awesome. But if not, this is still a good resource for you. It's called The Big Beach Cleanup, and the author's name is Charlotte Offsay, Offsay. And it's a picture book that just came out a few weeks ago, and it's about recycling and cleaning up the beaches and like that. So it just kind of goes along with this theme, so that you can kind of see some artwork that deals with this same subject. Might be fun. Yeah, this looks great. So if you want, we can all say something. Whenever I have done so many critique groups from like my classes in college to now in my professional career. And you guys probably know this, but how we always structure our criticism is like a sandwich. You say something nice, you say something constructive, and then you say something nice. Because everybody's work, even if they think it's the ugliest thing, there is at least one redeeming quality about it. They have one positive thing working, and it's always extremely important to point out the good along with the things that need work. Because even though when you're critiquing someone's work, it's not coming from a place of attacking them or giving them personal constructive criticism. It's about their work. But we're also human, and it's hard to hear anything negative about something that we make. So if you sandwich it, then it helps. So if you guys want, we can just kind of take turns. I'll go last because I like to hear what you guys have to say first, and then I'll kind of bring my 2 cents in. So if someone wants to start us off, that sounds good.
I guess I can go first if no one else wants to. I think this is really, really amazing. I think the color scheme works really well. You did a good job of like keeping everything simple and not like having too many things going on at once. And then you did a really great job like dividing up the sections as well. I love like the ocean waves that you have as the divider. I will say that the first section with 8 million metric tons of plastic enter the ocean every year, and then the 85%, the separation between those feels a little bit awkward to me just because there's so much space between the 8 and then like the rest of the fact. And it just doesn't feel as cohesive with the 85% of plastic fact. But otherwise, I think it's all like very easy to understand. You communicate the information in a really effective way, and it's also just fun to look at. I like all the little icons.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I also really like the colors. Every time you see like ocean themed stuff, you see a lot of blue. So I like how you added kind of the green too. So I think that works really well. I like the little whale. I think he's cute. One thing I see is like in microplastics at the very top, the R and the O just have the big bump in them at the bottom. Like I think you're kind of trying to get the letters like on water or something, because like that's kind of how like the staggered typography is. That's like what I'm getting. It's just I get kind of stuck right there at the bump. But I also like how little icons match with the text really well. So like they're kind of clear like what you're talking about, because sometimes small icons can get really lost. But I really like how they're really clear and you can kind of tell what each one is.
I also like the color scheme, like Joy said, and I appreciate like the little details, like the triangles inside the whale. And my point of criticism would be where exactly you want like your eye to be drawn at first glance, and what you want to emphasize with the infographic. Like I know you want to talk about microplastics, but then the how you can help at the end, it's kind of minimized for me and on the same plane of all other topics. But overall, I really like how easy it is to read, and like the readability is really good. And I was wondering, like, how do you feel about your infographic, like yourself?
Good question.
Well, thank you for all of the comments. I'm personally pretty satisfied with it. Graphic design is a whole new thing for me, so like this whole class has been a learning experience. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun to mess around with things, challenging to do certain things. So overall, I'm pretty satisfied with what I've produced, though.
Yeah. So I agree with what everyone said. I think you got some good tips on some things to fix, and you got some nice compliments on things that are working. I also am a big fan of the color scheme. I think that's working really well for you. I agree with the top section where you have the 8 million metric tons facts. And I get that you have kind of structured that section and the bottom section to be kind of columned the same way. But I think that, it can be a little bit easier to read up there. And I almost think that because I like how you have that center section where do microplastics come from? I like how you have that off center. It doesn't look like 2 columns where you have like something on the left and something on the right. There's kind of like an asymmetrical division there. And I would almost like to see something like that happening in the other 2 sections, either lined up the same way or flip to where you have like the smaller section on the left and the larger section on the right, to get kind of a juxtaposition, like I said, that way, or line it up consistently across the board. But and I thought that was a good observation about the R and the O at the top. I get that you're, I also understand that you're trying to do the wave on the bottom there, which I think if you want that to work, try using like that aqua teal color and maybe make it an actual line. If that doesn't look how you're wanting it to, try separating the R and the O, because they are touching just a smidge, and I think that might be impacting the readability of it. And then the S, the first S, isn't following that same curve, which was probably intentional because you like to break the plane. I understand the logistics of that, but maybe try making it kind of arched at the bottom too, and see if that would help. So those are just some options that you can try, but overall, I think this is an extremely strong piece. Is this going to be used as mostly online, or would it be like printed out and like a poster?
I'm assuming mostly just online. It's our final project for graphic design.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because I think it would work really well if you did need to print it out, just because it is easy to read. It could make a nice like 11 by 17 poster, or, translate a little bit smaller or a little bit larger. And that's something that you have to think about both with graphic design and illustration and art in general, is the distance by which it will be legible or able to kind of differentiate between the shapes. That's a big lesson in book covers that I have been learning, because when you're shopping for books online, they're 1/2 inch and to 1 inch. And you have to be able to read the title clearly, see the image, because if it's a picture book, it will most likely have a picture on the front of it. So you have to think about, making an appealing drawing that looks good, both as a thumbnail and out in the world as a 8 by 10 book. So I think that in terms of this, I think it would. And one thing that I try to do is I kind of shrink my images down to that size, just so that I can get an idea of what it will look like when it does appear online on the Amazon list. Or in this case, this could be an icon that if somebody would want to read the poster, they would have to click on it to then enlarge it. So you have to kind of, entice your audience from that, thumbnail size. So shrink it down and see what it looks like. When you do that, you might realize that the microplastics heading, the letters might need to be a smidge larger, but just, see what that looks like at that scale, because that's a nice way to kind of fix problems before you have them. So, do you have any questions or anything, Kelsey? I think you're doing a fantastic job. I love all the art, like all the little icons and stuff, like they were saying, because I'm an illustrator, so I'm gonna love pictures. So.
No, I don't really have any questions, but thank you so much.
Awesome. Cool. All right. And if you guys have questions, like I said, about any other like art related topics or illustration or publishing or anything, I'm happy to answer anything that you have. So does anyone have work that they want to share next?
I have an old project from last semester, actually, that I would like to get some feedback on, because it was like over a Zoom class, so we didn't get to do a whole lot of critiquing on it. But I also did log on to Zoom on my iPad, and so I'm gonna join Zoom from my laptop and then try to share my screen from there. So hopefully this will work.
What kind of drawing programs do you guys like to use? Because I use Procreate on my iPad for everything. You guys
I love Procreate. Okay, I'm there twice. This is kind of weird.
It's weird, I know.
Okay. I enjoy Procreate as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And I just saw that they announced a new iPad Pro coming out as part of like the new Apple products and stuff, which of course everybody's gonna want. So, This looks super fun. Bubble tea is awesome.
So here it is. The page on the right is like the inside of the cover, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because I have the cover on like a separate file just for like printing purposes. Yeah.
Awesome. I love just something right off the bat. I love the pink tone because it's not like bubblegum pink, which is, you know, everybody is entitled to their own opinions, but I like this is like so much better because a lot of the, you know, in art and illustration, you've got what's kind of been termed the Disney palette, which is your very literal rainbow colors, and that works for them. And I think that they are spectacular and beautiful, but those don't lend themselves well to every type of project. So it's good when you can kind of go off of those. And we were just talking about Procreate. I heard at a talk one time this artist say, like, in your little disc color wheel that you have to choose from in Procreate, one of the best things that you can do is to not use anything on the right hand side of that circle because those are the pure tones. So come in a little bit, you know, just to play around. I mean, sometimes they are necessary and they're, like I said, they're beautiful and they work, but sometimes you can really discover a lot about your own style and your own color palette by making it like almost like a challenge to not use those tones. So this was a good choice. This is awesome. I love the recipe that you put in here. As far as like content, that's really cool.
Mhm. And that's it. I do want to know that like the those like pink rectangles look like they aren't aligned, but that was because like I had to format them for the bleed and stuff, so
Right.
they do print like lined up. That's just how it looks on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Who wants to start on this one?
I really like your illustrations. I think they're really cute, and they're really simple. So you can tell like what you're talking about. Like that's like obviously like a more solid pudding, and like the difference between the tapioca and the regular boba. I think like you communicate that really well. Back I think closer to the table of contents where there's like a little map. I'm assuming this is like for a book, right? I just worry about like the map print. Like I have books where when they print and then they have like when they like get bound, stuff gets cut off. And so like I wonder if the map is just really close to like that kind of binding area, especially if there's like a thicker like I can't think of the spine to it. It just I know so many books that have like illustrations or maps in them and you can't see like the middle section of it because it's like wait what there's like a word there I can't read it and it just happens a lot, so like that's what I wonder about. But I also do like the color scheme. It's not millennial pink, which you see a lot right now. It's kind of like a more purpley tone, so I really like that.
Awesome. And it's called the gutter there in the middle where things get lost. Yes. It's again something that every book illustrator or person who creates like professional pamphlets deals with, and it always looks so much better on the screen, but you know, it is what it is. All right, who's next?
I'll go. So I really like the page about how to order a boba tea and like I just like it. It's just so simple, and this whole book is just very simple and just easy to digest. Yes, I love that so much. But one of my worries is the light text against the light background and the readability of that. But overall, I just think it's like just good.
I agree.
I love the color palette and the illustrations as well. I love how the pink's not too overly pink. It's very subtle, but also adds color to it. Like Kimmy said though, the only thing that is kind of like difficult for me is kind of like the light text on the light background, which it could just be the screen and stuff as well, and be different printed. But overall, I think it's really adorable and cute and very well done. Also, this is slightly unrelated, but a thing pops up, Joy, that said I'm the host now, and I don't know how that happened.
I think it may be because I left the meeting from my iPad, but we should be all right since I'm not the host on my laptop, so I can share from there. So anyone else should be able to share too.
Okay.
Good. All right. Yeah, I think I agree with everything that everyone said. If you want to scroll back up to the top. Okay. So like we said, I love the blockiness of everything. And if you want to scroll down a little bit, I think that's something in the if you want to go to the history section, like I said, the blocks are looking really good. I think maybe a pronunciation somewhere might be nice, just because someone might not, there's a difference between bubble, boba, everybody kind of pronounces things differently. So it might be nice to just have that at the beginning somewhere. So that would be helpful. I agree with this map being a little bit close to the gutter line. Just all you have to do is shift it over a little bit. And I think that the white text on the pink background is working a lot more than the pink text on the white background. But all you would have to do is like take a color sampling of that main pink that you're using and go down like 2 to 3 shades and get a dark version of the same color. That way you're staying in your scheme. And same thing, if you would ever need a lighter one, just take a color sample of the pink and then go up a few shades, because if you do that, you stay in that really nice kind of monochromatic world. And because it is that way already, that will just strengthen it. So that was a good note from Kimmy there about the text. I think when you scroll down to the images of the 2 large glasses, here, yeah. These were the only 2 illustrations that stuck out to me as being a little bit subpar to the other illustrations that you have, because I love the pudding illustration. That was my favorite one, was the pudding one. So these ones, and I think it might just be because their size, they're just not as rendered as the other ones are. And I get that it's ice in a glass, like it's a hard drawing to achieve, and you've done a fabulous job with like the shading and the highlights on them. So maybe just try shrinking them down just a smidge and see if that helps. Otherwise, just try to define some ice sticking up a little bit more, because right now the ice is kind of touching the top of your glass. So that creates what's called tension. When you have like 2 things that are meeting, one thing should always overlap the other. And I get knocked on this all the time because it's something that you do without even realizing that you're doing it. So before I turn in any illustrations, I always do a tension check. And so I just go back and make sure that everything is overlapped. There's nothing that's almost touching or just touching. But yeah, try those things. That should fix it. That's really my the only thing that I would suggest you work on, other than changing the text color, because I think this is really well laid out. It's extremely informative too, because people need to know this stuff. This is great. It's timely too. And now with, things opening back up, people will be able to go to like little places like this and actually, socialize outside of our houses. Thank goodness. So I think that it could be super useful. I don't know what you're planning to do with it, but it might be something. If, you said this was a project from last year, it might be worth it to try to get some jobs out of this, send it to some local shops or something and be like, hey, I made this thing for my grad school class. If you want something similar, I'm happy to make it for you. And you never know who might say yes. That's part of it too, is, it's, you have to hustle sometimes. You have to get your stuff out there and, be willing to do things. Sometimes, everybody starts off doing things for free. That's just all part of it. You have to pay your dues. I have done a ton of free work, but it's those unpaid jobs that leads to paid jobs, when you're a freelancer. And even if you do end up with, a job where you work for a company, you can always do, side projects, if there's no conflict of interest or anything like that with your current employer. You can do freelance jobs, you can do, anything that you want, based on, again, if that's a conflict of interest, obviously don't. But yeah, there's so many opportunities out there that you don't even know about. So sometimes you have to create your own. And this will be a great selling point, to start that. Same thing with your project, Kelsey. After this is used for school, there are so many organizations who have graphic designers and who need signage and stuff like that. So you can always send that to them and be like, hey, I made this for school. I'd love to, work with you or do something similar for your organization. Again, you just have to start, making your own opportunities. So do you have any questions, Joy, or anything?
Yeah, I did have one question. I guess this page or this spread is actually something that I was wanting to get some feedback or ideas on, because it was definitely the last thing that I worked on in this project, and I was just kind of wanting to get it over with. So I definitely did put in the least amount of thought, especially with the layout, because right now I feel like it looks like it could just be from a PowerPoint presentation with the bullet points. So I was just wondering if anyone had any ideas or suggestions in terms of how I could lay out the information, I guess.
First thing that I see is you definitely have the tea section and the milk section. So I'm wondering if adding tea at the end and milk at the end of all the bullet points is necessary, especially because you kind of this is strawberry milk. If everything is milk, then I don't think that denotation is necessary. And I'm wondering if instead of bullets, I don't know, with mirror stuff, if you have this being left aligned and on the right side it being right aligned, if that would make sense. Playing around with that kind of format.
So great ideas. Yeah, sometimes, again, if you sketch, if you use a rectangle for the text and an oval for your cup and just move things around the page, process of elimination will kind of lead you to some more ideas. So that's a good note. Anybody else have any suggestions?
I think what you could do is on each page is center your image, and then around, I agree with the point of removing the T's, but then let's say have black, green, milk, oolong, kind of staggered around the image instead of very linear, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I know it would be a lot more work, but you could do a small thumbnail illustration for each thing. And I realized that this was your last one. I would have done the exact same thing. But if you wanted to try to take it to the next level, do a little black tea leaf, and then, that kind of thing, a strawberry for strawberry milk. I agree that you don't need those words because we've already heard you kind of say that at the top. I think the thing that is throwing me off too is that tea looks like it's left aligned and milk based looks centered, and that's only because the milk based is longer. I get that, but maybe center both of them. And then if you do that, then the text would work kind of around one main image, like Kimmy was just saying. That would be kind of fun because then you would have the word centered and the glass centered. Again, just kind of draw some shapes and play around with it. But yeah, those are all great suggestions. Anybody else have any last minute thoughts on this one? Okay, any more questions, Joy?
No, that's all. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I think you got some great stuff to go on here. And if you guys want to send me revisions of any of your stuff, I'm always happy to look at it. I'll just put my email address in the chat and just send it along. All right, anybody else have work that you want to share? or questions. Like I said, we don't have to share work. I can take questions. I'm an open book, figuratively. Let me know.
So I was wondering, like, could you explain the process just for like making a book, like
Sure.
like putting
Yeah.
your illustrations in a book from like beginning to end? Like, do you email someone or yeah?
So it's a very interesting process, and this is how it has worked for me. Again, everybody's story is a little bit different. Um, so I'm a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. It's SCBWI. If you all want to be involved in any type of picture book, children's book, middle grade illustration, I would recommend joining that organization. There are student memberships available, so it's a little bit cheaper, but it's still not that expensive. But if you decide to go that direction later on, definitely join. And I met an art director at a conference and showed her my portfolio. And then a few days later, she emailed me and offered me a book deal for a picture book that she thought my style would be good for. So this was my first experience working with an art director and a like big editorial team. And so that's how I got my first job. Was they contacted me. So once that happened, then I got the manuscript for the story, and the title is called Valence Slime, and it's my debut book, and it will actually be out July 13th of this year, and which is super exciting. And hopefully by then we'll be able to see people in person so I can celebrate with my book. So once I get the manuscript, then we enter into the sketch stage where the book is paginated, which means the page numbers are set out so I know where my images are supposed to go in terms of like this is on page 1. And with a picture book, you have things that are called double page spreads, which is where you have like the two facing pages of a book and the image spans both pages. And then a single spread is obviously this image is different from this image. There are two different places. And then you have things that are called spot illustrations that are just kind of free form images, and you can have a multiple of them across the two pages that you see. And that's not really determined by them. I get to choose that. So I do a series of sketches, and then like I said, I work on my iPad completely. So I did the sketches, and then I emailed them to the art director and the editor, and they all have a big meeting, and then they come back to me with revisions. And I did 3 rounds of revisions for Valence Slime, which is typical from what I understand. And they give you feedback, which again, it is a fantastic learning process. I cannot say enough about how much I learned through that process. And they tell you where things are working, where things can be improved, kind of like what we just did. And it's amazing what other people can see about your work that you are completely blind to. That's why being part of a critique group like this is so important, because you get other people's perspectives. Plus, you are literally staring at the thing all day. And it's like when you write something and you forget to put a word in, it's because your mind just skips it and you don't even see it. So I did the sketch revisions, and then once the revisions are approved, then you enter the full color stage. Sometimes you'll be asked to do what's called a color study, which I was asked to do for Valence Slime has a sequel called Valence Slime. That's like a Valentine's, themed story. And the basis of Valence Slime is about a little girl scientist who creates slimes, different types of slime, with her dog sidekick named Igor. I gave him a hunchback, and he he's the one who like all the bad things happen to in a funny way. So there's a lot of comedy involved with it. So, you get to use the expressions and you get to use body language and stuff in the art, which is really fun. So a color study is basically where you go and you figure out the palette for each page, and you just kind of rough it in on top of your sketch, just to say like a blob of green here for the grass, a blob, whatever it may be. And then you send that in so that you can get your palette approved, and then you can then proceed to the full color illustration work, which is so much fun. And it, the timeline kind of changes based on the project. I had about 2 months for the sketches, and then a little bit longer. You get a little bit longer, obviously, for the color section. It can, vary between like what your deadline is for the book. So I ended up finishing the color, and then once the color is approved, then you're finished and you just kind of hang out and wait. I finished the art for Frankenslime about July of last year. So the artwork was finished about a year before the publication. The publishing industry in itself is extremely slow because you have all this time that you have to put into making this thing perfect. And then you have, lead time for marketing, you have print time. So it all, ends up taking quite a while, but it is extremely worth the wait. But it's an interesting process, like I said, because the art director and the editor are so involved, and it's just amazing that like the feedback that you get and how much better the art is as a result of it. And even, like I said, things that you would never even think about. So that's kind of the basic process. And then once the book comes out, like your job is not nearly finished or anything, because then you get to go do signings. And if you're the illustrator like me, I can do art demos with kids, and I do school visits with kids. And I've done a few Zoom school visits, which have been very interesting. Like the kids are great. It's just, I wish I could like be there in person, because I did a demo where I taught them how to draw the dog from Frankenslime, and they all like wanted to show me their work. So they came up to the camera one by one and like held their paper in front of it for me. And they're like, look what I did. And I was like, it's adorable. But it's that in person is a lot better for that part, but it's a really, really fun job. So
this is a little off topic, but kind of on topic. I just remembered like when I was really little and what I love to read now, but like I just remembered, I don't remember if it was the author or the illustrator of like children's books coming to my school, and like we got to have like a little like tea time, and it was like kids from different grades. And I'm remembering that now because it was like I loved picture books when I was a kid, and I love reading now. So I'm like, it's just kind of full circle. I think that's sweet.
Yeah, it is. And that's, for a lot of kids, you don't remember those things until you're prompted to. And like, I mean, I can remember authors coming to my school, and I always thought it was like, because they're like celebrities, and like inevitably some kid would ask the author, like, are you rich? And they're like, why would you ask that? But like it is just amazing, like the questions that they get and stuff. But picture books are really a kid's first introduction to the world. It's an opportunity for their imagination. It's an opportunity for them to learn, both in terms of, the literacy, because there are words, but in terms of, visual storytelling. And that's where the artist comes in. And that's what's so much fun, because with picture books, the illustration should not show you what the words are telling you, because the words are already telling those to you. Why do you need a picture? And that's why, as an artist, you get to draw what's not in the words. And a picture really is worth 1,000 words. You can tell so much of a story in a picture. It is awesome. And, a lot of times when people are remembering, like you, Audrey, you remember the pictures first before the words. You might remember the title, but you're totally going to remember, oh yeah, that picture of that big blue, whatever, and that's why like it's such a special thing. And not just for picture book artists, but for designers and everything. People are always going to remember pictures. And we're such a visual culture now, with like Instagram is all pictures, and Facebook, if you scroll through, you stop and you look at the pictures more so than read the words. And, Twitter's a little bit, kind of on the fence, but there's pictures there. But it's just amazing how much our society relies on images to communicate and to tell stories. So yeah, but that's a great memory. I'm glad. I can show you guys the covers if you want. Awesome. All right, so while I pull these up, do you guys have any more questions about anything? And if you guys liked this and enjoyed this and you want to do this again, I'm happy to come back and look at work for anything that you guys have. I know that school is ending soon, but it is what it is. Hopefully next year you'll get to like actually have some in-person interaction with people. So this is the cover for Frankenslime. So this was my first one, and I'm so excited. And, talking about doing revisions of things, it's extremely important, again, when you receive feedback, to understand that it is constructive criticism, and you are getting told these things because they know that it can be better, and you want it to be the best that it can be because you want the books to sell, you want the books to be appealing, you want your designs to be appealing, you want your posters to sell. You know, it all goes back to that that same idea. So there were, oh gosh, I probably sent in maybe 10 cover designs. And then the same with like the color scheme ideas. So it's one of those things where like the more you do, the better it's going to get. And it definitely, in my opinion, paid off, because I am super proud and I'm very excited. So it's definitely worth all of the revising. And I don't know if you guys work with the TV on, but I do. So I watched like a ridiculous amount of Netflix, and I still do watch a ridiculous amount of Netflix while I work. So
really good question. I just realized like it has like the written by, illustrated by. Did you have to like kind of give an idea of like where that would be and they got to choose the font, or did you have to like choose the font for them?
That's a great question. So I actually hand lettered the names, because the little girl, Victoria, in the story, she takes notes on a lot of things. So I had to kind of create a way of writing for her that was obviously very childlike, because she's a kid, she's not going to have perfect handwriting. So that type of writing is all throughout the book. And the art director thought it would be neat to have that consistent with the names on the cover. And the title font, the title lettering is actually also hand done. The art director at Fywell and Friends did, her name's Mallory Gregg. She is absolutely amazing. You guys should follow her on Twitter. She does tremendous design work and it's just so amazing. She's the one that, like I said, she did the lettering, and then I took what she created and added the drips, because obviously we wanted it to look drippy and slimy and stuff. So that was really great. And then for the cover of Valence Slime, I just took the same SLIME and added Valen to the beginning of it in the same type of look to it. So it was consistent. But yeah, that's all hand done. That's one of my favorite things in picture books, is when it's hand lettered, like the title text is hand lettered, just because it's unique and you know that nobody else will have that font. Even if somebody tries to like draw it and copy it, it will not look exactly the same. So it's something that you have that's unique to you, which is really cool. And then with Valence Slime, like I said, we wanted the title text to be consistent, so it is. And I didn't do as many revisions with that one as I did with Frankenslime, just because it was the sequel, so I knew a lot of things already, in terms of like the character and their coloring. And so it was mostly the background that I had to work with on that one. So this is the cover of Valence Slime. So you can see like the slime lettering is the same. And then I did the same hand lettering is also from the other cover as well for consistency. So, and I did a lot of designs with this one too. I tried to I put the names, like our names on the hearts at one point. They were up here at one point. But again, it's just one of those things that like a lot of art, it just kind of happens organically, and you know, like a gut feeling when it's like the right one. And so like I send in the ones that I get that feeling for, and then let the marketing department decide which one is going to be the most successful. So you get some, again, like you get a lot of say, because you get to create the designs in the first place, and then you just have to leave it up to them and trust them to make the, you know, good final decision for you. So, but it's so fun. All right, guys, any other work or any other questions or anything? You guys are so great. I'm so excited for each one of you. And even if you didn't show work, like I said, I'm so glad that you came, because even if art is just a hobby, I'm so glad that it brings you joy and can kind of give you a break from the real world, which we all need a lot. And like I said, I'm happy to come back and do this again anytime. You guys are awesome. I love UK. So anytime you guys want to meet, I'm all for it.
I know Emily would be thrilled to have you again next semester.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, if there's any more questions or anything? Let me put my email in the chat here. And like I said, if you guys have any questions that you think of later, just send me an email and I will get back to you if you want to show me any work or anything, or if you have publishing questions, illustration questions, whatever, just let me know. I am here. All right, guys. Well, if there is nothing else, it looks like we're at the end of our hour pretty much. So yeah, anything else? Awesome. All right, guys. Well, you are all amazing. I'm so excited for each of you. And I hope that you all have a nice rest of your year and a good summer and hopefully some time to make some art over the summer. Yeah?
Thank you.
Awesome. You're so welcome, you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this for us.
Yes, anytime. You guys are awesome. All right. Well, I'll see you later. Bye.